Hey guys, it's Sam. Welcome back to Vlogmas. Today we're going to be talking about my most anticipated releases for 2021. I cannot believe it, but I'm hyped because I'm just like, 2021, you gotta be good, right? So this video topic, along with all of my Vlogmas topics, was voted on by my Patreon supporters. So every month my Patreon supporters get to vote in a poll for what video topic that I'll do, but for Vlogmas they got to choose like a bunch of topics. And the winners that got the most votes were the topics I actually ended up doing, but they got to choose from all of them, and they also get to vote in books that I'll read. We do Patreon exclusive live streams, and we do Discord chats, and it's a lot of fun. So if you're interested in participating in my content in that way in the new year, I will link my Patreon on the screen. So I'm covering all of the books that I'm really looking forward to, like the highest ranking. These are on my like I must have it list of 2021. Now these are all tentative releases. These are the release dates as of Goodreads as of the day that I'm filming this video, which is like mid-November. So these could change, these could get pushed back, these could get pushed up. We don't really know, but right now, as of the filming of this video, these are the dates we have. So first off, for the winter season in January, there are two books that I am most looking forward to, but I've actually already talked about those in my most anticipated releases video for winter in general. Not every book that's on that list ended up in this list and vice versa, because this list is like the higher ranked stuff. But the two books that make the most anticipated of the year list, I would say, are Lore by Alexandra Bracken and Winterkeep by Kristen Cashore. Lore is like a tentative, like I really want to like it, but I don't know if I actually will because I don't tend to like Alexandra Bracken's books, but this sounds perfect. And then Kristen Cashore is like an all-time favorite author of mine, so I'm pretty sure I'm gonna like that one. But I talk about both of those, like I said, more in the other video, so I'll link that on the screen. All right, and then we get into spring. So for spring, on March 2nd, we have Down Comes the Night by Allison Saft. This is a book that I think some authors that I follow were talking about on Twitter. And basically what wrote this in for me was this is a gothic fantasy romance, YA, debut. It's two enemies trapped inside a crumbling gothic mansion trying to escape the monsters that are within it. And of course it's gonna be probably like hate to love because they're like sworn enemies and whatever. That's all I need. Then on May 25th, we actually have, I think, the only romance book on this list? Possibly? Which is mostly because romance books don't get announced far ahead of time. And that is Hang the Moon by Alexandra Bellafleur. Now this is the second book in this series. The first book was Written in the Stars, which I read, I think, in November. But that book was super cute. It was a female-female romance with an astrologer and like a businessy, I think she was like a lawyer or something. And they had a Pride and Prejudice, like Darcy and Lizzie dynamic, but it wasn't a retelling. It was so good. I talk about that in my October wrap-up, so check that out because I really enjoyed that book. So much so that this one really piqued my interest as well. This is a, I believe, heterosexual couple. I don't know if both of them are het or not, but they are the ones that are falling in love. The guy is a developer of a app that is like a true love app, like really believes like he's the hopeless romantic. And he's the brother of the like Darcy character in the first book. And then the Darcy character's best friend, who he's had a crush on, is like finally coming back around. And again, these are adults. I think they're in their like 30s, and they're like, they have this like spark now, even though he was always like just the brother of, you know, her friend or whatever. So they're forming a thing. So it's almost like a friend's, like friend of a sibling romance kind of thing. And it's just like very cute. And the fact that like he's the hopeless romantic, adorable. Then on May 27th, we have Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I think this one will probably pop up a lot on different lists because Taylor Jenkins Reid is like a booktube darling. But this is Malibu in August in 1983, and we're following this family, this like really wealthy family, at their end of the summer celebration party they have every year, and like all of these things are happening, like dynamics are unraveling and like drama is happening, basically. So it's just like rich people family drama, and I actually kind of love that vibe. And Taylor Jenkins Reid does like messy people in their lives so well. Like those are the two books that I read by her so far are Daisy Jones and the Six and The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Both I really liked. I liked Evelyn Hugo a little bit more, but like she just does these kinds of things, historical, fiction-y, like dramatic lives thing like so well. So I don't really care what the premise of this one is. I was probably gonna read it. Then we get into summer, and there's way more summer releases than there usually are. I think because some of these books might have been like 2020 and got like pushed back a bit. I'm not sure, but there's more in summer than there usually is because typically speaking, spring and fall tend to be like the best release seasons for books for me. Also, some of the fall releases probably aren't announced yet either. That could be a thing. But anyway, here's the books for summer. So on June 10th, we have The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. This is the first book in a new series by Tasha Suri. Tasha Suri is who wrote Realm of Ash and Empire of Sand, which are like some of my favorite fantasy books. This is the first book in an adult fantasy series. That series was adult as well. And it's inspired by the epics and the history of India. And it features a captive princess, a maidservant with like dark magic, and they become unlikely allies trying to overthrow the princess's like traitor brother. And I believe it's a female-female romance. Cannot wait. Then on June 15th, we have the newest addition to this list, a book I just found out about like last week, and that is For the Wolf by Hannah Witten. Now this sounds like a dark Red Riding Hood retelling, but basically the second daughter, and what I'm assuming is like a royal family, needs to get sacrificed to like the wolf of the wildwood. And so she does that to like protect, you know, her kingdom kind of. And she finds out that the wolf is not a wolf, it's a man. So the description of this says it's good for fans of Uprooted and The Bear and the Nightingale. Two of my favorite books. So I'm very excited for like potentially with those comps being like some Eastern European like folklore, mythology, inspiration and stuff, some dark fantasy, some like, you know, villainy type romance, you get me. Then on July 6th, we have The Last Graduate by Naomi Novik. This is the second book in the like Deadly Education series, and this is a book that I'm like still tentative about, but like, I don't know, the first book had its issues, but had some like good foundation building that potentially the second book could like make or break it. If the second book doesn't make it better, I'm done with the series, but it could like really launch from here and do some really interesting things. So I'm excited about this one. Like I am definitely looking forward to this to see where this goes from the first book. I still am thinking about like that world especially. Some of the stuff about the characters in the first book weren't like super spot on. I liked our main characters, but like the side characters were just like whatever. But the world of that like is still a school world that I think about, and it's been a couple months since I read the book. And then on July 13th, we have the only sci-fi on this list, and that is A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers. I really don't even need to know what this is about, just that it's a sci-fi by Becky Chambers, and that's all I really care about. Basically, in this future, the robots of Earth became like sentient and decided to just like, no, we're not, and they like left. And they sort of faded into like background mythology, almost like a fantasy urban legend type thing. But then one shows up to a tea monk one day, randomly, with the question of what do the people need? So this just speaks so much to like Becky Chambers's, oh, what's the name of it? It's not, is it Solar Punk or something? Where it's like an optimistic future, more like peaceful, more of like a slower character-driven story. Like that's what she does with the Wayfarer series, which is one of my favorite sci-fi series. So this is another book in that similar vein, not from the same series, but I cannot wait. The synopsis specifically says a new series to give hope about the future. Bless. And then lastly we have fall. Well, not quite lastly, because I'm going to have another category after this. You'll see in a second. So this book, there were 2 tentative dates for, and I'm not even sure if they're completely like for sure set in stone. But Goodreads said either August 21st or October 12th. So I put it in fall because I'm just saying it's going to be later, whatever. The Thorn of Emberlane by Scott Lynch. This is the 4th book in the Gentleman Bastard series, the first one being Eliza Locke Lamora. This one has been on my most anticipated list for the year for like 2 years, maybe 3 now, since I started reading the series, and this book hasn't been written. And like it's just been there as like we've known the cover, it's just been like sitting there. But this year it's supposed to come out. So I'm very excited. I will finally read the 3rd book in the series in 2021 in anticipation of this coming out. So that's exciting as well. That's one of my favorite fantasy series of all time. Adult fantasy series. Like it's so good. Then the last category is we don't know for sure when this is going to come out. So these are all books that say 2021, but there's no date. So it could be 2021 or it could not be. We will see. There's just a handful here. First is Go Marching In by Tamsin Muir. Tamsin Muir is the author of Gideon the Ninth, and I recently read Gideon the Ninth and really liked it. I think I'm going to continue with that series. And there's not a description officially on Goodreads, but I have heard from like tweets and stuff that this is underwater lesbian gunslinger sci-fi. So I'm down. Then the next book is The Gilded Wolves 3. That will maybe come out in fall, but again, we're not sure because the second book had gotten pushed back, so I don't know if Gilded Wolves 3 will officially come out. We don't have a title for it, we don't have a cover, nothing like that, but it could tentatively come out in 2021, which I hope that it does. I have reviews for The Gilded Wolves, so I will link that, but that is a YA fantasy series, a crew, they go on a heist for magical artifacts and stuff, and it's so good. It was so good. I love both the books in the series, so highly looking forward to that if it comes out in 2021. one. Then we have Well Matched by Jen DeLuca. And this is the other adult contemporary romance on this list. This is the Ren Fair romance series. I loved the first book in the series, and these characters were in that first book, so I've been looking forward to this since that first book. The second book was like fine, but like, whatever. And they weren't like characters that we knew super well. These two, I cannot wait because there was already tension in the first book. This is Mitch, who's one of the like studs of the Ren Fair, but is like actually really sweet and is like one of their friends. And then the main character in the first book's sister, and they had like a scene in the first book of like tension. So I've been waiting for this book to come out. And lastly, we have The Bright Sword by Lev Grossman. Lev Grossman is the author of the Magician series, which is one of my favorite adult fantasy series of all time as well. He hasn't written anything in so long. So this one I'm looking forward to. It sounds like it is a Arthurian legend retelling, reimagining, that kind of thing. So I am down. I'm not usually like a King Arthur like person, but he does such interesting things with like tropes and like especially established fantasy tropes. Like he did a lot of twists on like Tolkien and like C.S. Lewis, like Narnia and stuff in The Magicians. So I want to see what he's going to do with the tropes of Arthurian legend. And that is it. Those are all the books that I'm really looking forward to for 2021. Again, with some dates tentatively changing. So comment down below, let me know your most anticipated releases for 2021. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye.